The one who's formidable is going to be the one who has the military. The real currency of the world is your military capacity. And unfortunately, there's no African country that has any military capacity that can stand up to the French, the US, the British. So they have to find someone to back them who does have a military capacity like that. And there are only two other places.
I already know what you're going to say. Go ahead, say them.
China.
And the other one start with an R.
Right. It's the only two other places. Those are the two.
It's only two.
And that's the thing.
And that's why we always beefing with these people. We always beefing with them.
Yes. So that's the thing.
Live from the district. 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 Live from the district.
Welcome to another edition of Live from the District. I am Easy Street. That is Jay Cameron. What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
Good to see you, as always.
Yeah, man. Good to finally see you in person.
And catch me in the States.
Exactly, because you're never in the country. You're always traveling abroad. You're always in Africa somewhere, going throughout the diaspora.
Yeah, you got it.
Checking in on our people, man. How you been?
I'm doing well and excited to be home. DC is home.
Okay.
This is where I grew up. DC raised me, and I tell everyone, no matter where I go in the world, I'll always find myself back in the DMV. But in DC in particular, I know we're in Maryland right now, but DC is home.
Okay, so I want to talk all things travel, talk about your places that you've gone to, the people you met, some of the interesting things that you've seen abroad. But one of the main outcomes that I want in this particular podcast is to excite our people.
All right,
to ignite our people, to agitate our people, to want to know more about, and also to travel to Africa.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times, we hear about Africa, or you hear people saying, I ain't African American, which is cool. You have a right to define yourself. But come on, man. You got hair like this.
Right.
You got skin like this.
Yeah.
You dance like that.
Yeah.
You
built like this.
You love like this.
Yes,
you eat foods like this.
You got it.
All these things are part of your DNA, but you have people, and again, people have the right to define themselves. But I just think that, knowing thyself, like our great ancestors, our Kemetic brothers and sisters taught us that the real journey of life is for us to know who we are and to know ourselves. And it's obvious that a lot of us in our community, just based off of what's happening, we don't know who we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So we want to get into all that. I know that's a lot.
No, it's not.
I know that's a lot, people, but we're going to break it all down. So now, how did you get into traveling in the first place?
Well, much of what you just talked about, I didn't have interest in even going to Africa until about 6 years ago. And I was sitting around the DMV, and I was kind of doing the same thing, going through the same routine, and kind of safe within my little bubble. And I said, you know what? I said, as I'm getting older, I've never been to the continent of Africa, and I'm carrying the label African American, but I really didn't have any connection to the continent. So I decided I was going to go to Ghana, and that's one of the 54 countries on the continent. And I was afraid. I was afraid of the long flight. I was afraid of the unknown. I was afraid of all the things that they told me, say, they don't like you over there. They're not going to accept you over there. You're not one of them, so they're going to kidnap you. All these bad things.
They're going to kidnap you.
They're going to kidnap you. They're going to take your organs. You name something, any bad thing you could think of. And so I had to really push through in my mind to say, I'm not going to allow someone else's, whether it's really ignorance. I'm not going to allow someone else's ignorance to influence me to the point where I miss out on something. And I felt that I was missing out on a connection and filling in some of these missing pieces in my life. So I said, I'm going to Ghana. And when I got to Ghana, that's when my entire life changed. I mean, it's like it took me from, I was going in one direction, and it was like I just went in a completely different direction because I saw the things that they didn't want me to see. And that's the broader systems didn't want me to understand and have this connection, because when I got to Ghana, I understood the story differently than from here. Because when we went to school, in the history books, they said, well, you know what? Your history started with slavery.
Right.
You're a descendant of a slave. So it was always, anytime I saw someone who looked like me from a historical perspective, they were in some form of bondage, whether they were enslaved, imprisoned, or some sort of bondage in their mind. But then when I got over to the other side of the Atlantic, and I looked at the United States from that side and understood the story, I realized that I descended from great people who were enslaved.
Right.
They weren't slaves, they were enslaved, and they were doctors, they were philosophers, they were all these different people that I would not have associated with those who came to the United States, into Brazil, into other parts of the diaspora. So when I started learning more, it gave me an incredible sense of pride to be connected and to be a part of the African diaspora, where I remember growing up, people would be teased for their African features. They would be.
Ooh, your hair nappy.
Yeah, all that. You know it. You know, you nappy hair, dark skin. You know those types of things.
Ooh, you look African.
Yeah. African booty scratches. All those different things.
African booty scratch. Oh my God, I ain't heard that in a minute.
Yeah. Took you back. So those are the things. It was never anything positive. We turn on TV, late night infomercials, children with flies. Everybody starving, some sort of corruption happening.
Give us some money to help out these Africans.
That's right, these poor Africans.
Oh my
need
God!
Us. You remember back in the mid '80s, we are the world.
Right.
So there was like USA for Africa.
Right.
I got there. I'm saying these people didn't even need us like that. So what happened? They picked a certain segment of the population and said, "This is the narrative about Africa. Everyone's sick and dying." When you go to and I don't want to use that term because that's a colonizer term. I was going to say sub-Saharan Africa. When you go to Africa below the Saharan desert,
right,
what you discover is that's tropical. They can grow anything they want. So you don't see the starvation. You see fields of corn and sugar cane and yams and cassava, and you see all of this happening. You see chickens, goats, and anything else that anybody would possibly want to eat is all right there. I'm saying these people aren't starving. But then I got deeper into it and said, well, okay, I don't see the economic prosperity I'm used to seeing. So you might not see, in the part of Africa that I went to in Ghana, I said, you might not see all of the skyscrapers and all of that. But I said, but why is that? Because this land has everything. It has gold, it has rubber, it has uranium.
Yeah, it's cobalt,
bauxite, all these different things. And I said, now why is it that we don't see the prosperity that I'm familiar with there? And I just realized at that point, France, England, United States,
Portugal,
Spain, the Dutch,
right,
Belgium, all of these places went in and raided, and I say that in past tense, but I could use a present tense
because they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
And we're gonna talk about the Congo and what's going on over there now because it's still happening.
It's still happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So I saw all of that, and I realized that there was more to the story, and I heard all the people saying, when I started sharing, man, you're not from there, and you're not this, that, and the other, and I'm looking, I said, well, clearly, whoever's saying that has not spent extensive time in that part of the world, because if you go, all you have to do is spend time in Nigeria and walk around, and you're going to see your cousin, your aunt, your grandmother. You're going to see all of these different features that are familiar. You taste that food. I don't need a DNA test. I don't need anything other than the familiarity. And I mean, you see the way people move. You see how the vibe is. You see all of that. And
it's like not realizing that you're looking at you. You looking in the mirror, bro. You're looking in the mirror.
Looking in the mirror.
And don't even know it.
Don't even know it. And the place that I felt the most familiar, and this is where they would argue with me. I went to Nigeria.
Okay.
And I handed my passport. At the passport, they're like, what are you talking about? What are you doing with this blue passport? You're from here. They looked at it and said, no. I mean, and every time I go to the airport in Nigeria, they argue with me to tell me I'm Nigerian.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I know I have a considerable amount of DNA from that part of the world.
Okay, so you got DNA tested?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But
Evil tribe?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Okay.
That's what the evil people look at, they say, you.
How did I know? Want to shout out to my sister Gina Page, AfricanAncestry.com.
Yes.
I had the DNA test myself. Big G, rest in peace, Devontae Davis, Vernon Davis.
Okay.
They all got a DNA test to find out where we were from in Africa. All a part of my documentary, Sankofa Hip Hop Project. So yeah.
So what did yours come back to?
Nigerian.
Okay.
98%. Bro.
Okay, so that's where it came
on
back.
my dad's side.
Okay,
yes.
so now what was interesting when I did my reveal with Dr. Gina, we did a reveal. Mine came back. Timone people, Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And so I got dual citizenship in Sierra Leone as a result of the African Ancestry DNA test that came back. But when I did some of
So you just doing it all. You got the citizenship over there? You went to the process?
Yeah, I got a dual citizenship and everything.
How many countries you got?
Well, just two passports. So I have Sierra Leone and the U.S.
Okay.
And but that Sierra Leone ECOWAS passports gets me all throughout West Africa without the need for a visa.
Right.
It also give me some street cred when I show up.
Right, so we're going to get into all of that too, man. Get into all of that. I want to ask you this, bro. So tell me this, Jay. Why would somebody want you to have all these negative perceptions of Mother Africa?
Oh, that's a good question. Anytime they tell you to stay away, that's because they're hiding something. There's something there that they're keeping for themselves. And that's what I discovered. When I would get on the planes, I wouldn't see us. I would see all of these Europeans on the plane, going to places like Kenya, going to Ghana, of course going to South Africa, going to Nigeria. And I'm saying, now if this is so bad, why are they over there? I'm looking at the places, the luxury developments, and who's living there? People from Russia. And yes, Russians, a lot of Russians.
Really?
Yes. When I was in Tanzania.
Okay.
During the pandemic.
All right.
The people who were going to Tanzania and they were in Zanzibar, Russian.
I'm not
German.
shocked by that because you got Putin over there, coming out with the black Jesus and all of that. He said Jesus is black.
He working it out, right? He's working that thing out. So he knows and he understands what's there because he has interest in Africa. But when I saw so many people from Germany and Russia and France and East Africa, then you come over to West Africa, and the Chinese are everywhere. I mean, everywhere I go. Lebanese primarily in West Africa, but I see them all over the continent, even down into South Africa. They understand. Now, let's take this a little bit deeper. If you take natural resources and exploit the resources and take them and spread them throughout the world, the human resources that were stolen from the continent, the descendants of those human resources, you don't want them to go back.
You talking about me and you?
You talking about me and
we
you.
talking about us.
We're talking about us.
Everybody up in the mix and mingle right now that's black.
That's right.
Okay.
Everybody. So you don't want them to learn that history because then they want to go back. The intention was that we never return, that we stay here and continue to build the wealth of the various countries, whether it be Brazil, whether it be the United Kingdom, whether it be France, whether it be Spain, Portugal. If we leave, now where does the labor force? If we go back, that defeats the whole purpose. So now what we have to do is control the education. We control the education and we say, well, all right, we're going to teach you the bare minimum so you can be a productive worker in our society. We don't want you to really understand the keys of how to build this wealth, because if you learn how to build the wealth, now you become a competitor. It was never designed for you to be a competitor. It was always designed for you to be subservient and at the bottom propping it up. Now, again, what school did we go to that taught us that?
I'm glad you brought that up because that's why the schools ain't really effective, because if they educate you correctly, you're going to want more. If you want more, you going over there. If you go over there, now we have another problem.
And you become a global, here's where the problem really comes in. You take someone from the United States, especially those of us who are part of the African diaspora who are here. We have an economic power that many of us don't recognize. If you take collectively black Americans and you put us together, we would be probably the 13th wealthiest country in the world.
Wow.
But they tell us, you're poor, you're disadvantaged, you have all of these different challenges. But when you put the economics together and say, well, okay, what if they somehow figured this out and started working together, this becomes a problem. So when you take black Americans and put them together, and you put them next to countries like Saudi Arabia, now they can rival Saudi Arabia as far as GDP. But again, we've been educated in the system and told, this is what we can do, this is our income potential, and if you start trying to think too much outside of that, then that's a problem. So for me, what it did, it showed me that I was a global citizen. I descend from the continent of Africa. I was born in the United States. For me, it's not either or, it's both.
Right.
So when you can lay claim to both, what kind of power is that?
Right.
So I'm buying property in Ghana. Whereas before, couldn't have even imagined it. But now I'm buying property in Ghana. I have a retail store in Ghana. I have a hair salon in Ghana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What you doing over there? I mean, I know what you're doing, but why? Why are you doing all that in Ghana? I'm just curious.
Because
for the people can know why.
Yeah, because the opportunity is there, one, to create jobs on the ground in Ghana.
Okay.
But now I'm able to take back some of the resources that were stolen. Because when I go back, it creates the job opportunities. And then you have the opportunity to work with locals. So instead of say getting, because a lot of things come in from China, quiet as kept, even on the continent. I'm now able to go to local artisans and support their business directly. So instead of there being all of this middle stuff going on, it can go directly from the artisan to the people. And so when people
cutting out the middleman and all these other
cutting it out, and then like we like to spend our money and know who the person was that created the product.
Right.
That's the difference, and that's what we're able to do. And it's a beautiful thing, because now it's like all of those intentions to keep us from being there, we're there. It inspires other people to say, you know what? I never thought about doing business on the continent. I always thought I had to do business in the U.S., and this is the only place that I can make money. When I saw the Lebanese doing it, when I saw the Chinese doing it, when I saw the Europeans over there, unapologetic.
Really?
Unapologetic, with some of the biggest restaurants and nicest restaurants you'll ever see. I said, well, where are we? And that was it. And so I don't know what I'll get into next as a result. But, obviously tourism is a big part of it. But I have no hesitations about doing business on the continent. I think what did it for me was when I went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. When I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and that was, there's no mountains around here.
Right.
But when I decided to do that, it was really making a statement to say, well, the intention was for those who descended from the continent not to return. Not only did I return, but I wanted to climb to the tallest mountain in Africa, just symbolically for me.
Right.
And by doing that, it just kind of opened the door and gave a level of confidence I didn't even know existed. So now, here we are, folks going over and hearing the story and watching us on social media and seeing the journey.
Right. So now you have been on television and you got a lot of shows. I already know what my next question is that I want to ask you. But first, before I ask that question, I want to ask you this. Like, you've been on this journey and you've been sharing your whole life and your journeys, like through several outlets. Talk about those outlets really quick. Well,
the different outlets. One, we're on Fox Soul. We're on Amazon Prime. We've been on numerous podcasts. Featured in Essence, just had something come out in Essence. MSN had us, Travel Noir. So it's good because I recognize that there's this movement of people who are saying, you're not this and you're not that. But I like to be able to share a different perspective because I've been there.
Right.
And to inspire people to say, listen, get outside of your bubble. I was in the bubble. And once I got outside of the bubble, I was able to see the world differently. I was able to see myself differently. Oftentimes people share these narratives from inside of something. But when they see someone else, that's a brother. That's a regular brother from round the way.
Right.
He's not that brother who's confused. It's like, this is a brother who knows who he is, but he was willing to do something outside of the norm and outside of what the culture was trying to say. And other people wish they could do it, but oftentimes we see a lot of people either afraid to do it, or there's some kind of agenda attached to it. It's like, I'm just out here doing my thing and just sharing the message, and glad for every opportunity that opens up, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us?
Right. It's very important for you to tell your story, for other people to witness it, to see it, because I think that's what's going to create the change. That's what's going to create the aha moment for people to be like, you know what? I need to go over there and see for myself instead of listening to these people. Because I was on the phone talking to somebody just the other day about some of the things that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And this is a narrative that you hear very often. And I know this is not going to be anything foreign to you. But them Africans, they don't even like you over there, bro. And I had to tell them, nah. In 96, when I got off the plane in Dakar, they welcomed me. So some of this is not outside forces. Some of this is coming from within our own people
for sure.
that have that mindset. I want to give you an opportunity to speak on that.
Well, I think what ends up happening, and to be fair to some people, when you get on the continent, there's a difference between a continental person who's African, I'll just use it in a broad sense, oftentimes versus those who will come to the United States and become Americanized. So there are complexities.
Right.
And so you'll find sometimes because they've been told things about us. So oftentimes when they come to the U.S., they hear, stay away from those African Americans. They're drug addicts. They're strung out. They're lazy. They have all these opportunities. They're not taking advantage of them. Just like we think that everybody, or many of us think that everyone's sick and dying and poor.
Right.
They're thinking that we're criminals, drug addicts, and
everybody been hoodwinked.
Everybody's been hoodwinked. So I'm saying, wait a minute, if you understand us, Yeah, we have that in our community. We definitely have some of that going on. There's no doubt. However, you start meeting some other folks out here, we hustle just like they do in Nigeria.
Right.
We get down just like we party the same way. And so you begin to, so when they come over, for many, they've already been told to stay away. So they'll gravitate towards, a lot of the white culture because that's, and unfortunately on the continent, you'll see a lot of the idolization of European symbols and European ways of life.
Right.
But when you leave here and you go there, it's different because they're like, wow, I've seen them all on TV. Man, I've never met, an African American before. And so when they meet you, they're like, wow, oh, y'all aren't lazy. Y'all are nice.
Right.
And they treat you, I've never had a problem on the continent with anyone in any country out of 23 African countries I've been to. Mm-hmm. I've never felt unsafe.
Wow.
I'm riding around D.C. I'm thinking about, okay, whoa.
hey.
Let me get out this car and make sure
Right.
check my...
Love my people, but damn.
It is what it is. Let me make sure somebody that pop around that corner about to jack this car. You've been in D.C. there by the time.
Right.
You know what time it is.
Yeah.
I never felt like I was going to get shot anywhere in Africa.
Wow.
Never felt like I was going to get carjacked, home invasion, none of that. So, but we're so used to, hearing, oh man, this bad thing is going to happen to you over there without even realizing some of the madness we live in right here.
Right.
When the part I love the most is when people come over and they have that awakening. And they're like, wait a minute, these people are really cool. Mm-hmm. I had the time of my life.
Right.
And then they want to go back. And they want more, and they want more, and they realize how they've been hoodwinked through not just the educational system, but just through the media and through culture and through misinformation from us.
Right.
Somebody saw something on social media, and then this is what's going on over in Africa. Okay, that's what's happening in that one section. Africa has 1.6 billion people.
Right.
With 54 countries and thousands of different ethnic groups, thousands of languages. I mean, it's helped me understand how you can say one incident that happens one place is blankets the whole continent.
Right. Well, that's been going on, and that's something that we've learned from the colonizers, and it's part of the strategy to divide and conquer.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows that. I mean, if you're not hip to the divide and conquer game by now, bruh.
Well, a lot of people aren't.
They're not.
That's what I'm discovering.
And I say that facetiously as a joke, but that's a whole nother discussion. But that is part of the strategy and tactic that they use. I mean, even the narrative that you've heard that, I heard a white lady say, well, on a video on Instagram, well, that some of your own African people sold you into slavery.
Oh, yeah.
They always want to throw that out there.
Yeah, we throw it around, too.
Yeah,
We oh, man, I heard that so much. Even with some of my social media posts, because I have no problem.
Right.
Before I used to be, let me be careful with what I say, because now I just say what I need to say.
Right.
And that's the first thing they come with.
Right.
Well, you sold your own. I said, well, first of all, I didn't sell anybody.
Right.
I've never been bought or sold. So,
Right.
So that kind of puts that. The complexities of what was happening on the continent of Africa, to take millions of people and to say what a few did and say that was going on everywhere.
Right.
There were so many people who didn't even participate in that.
Right.
Then, when you understand the complexities of it, you would have the British and the Dutch coming in, the Germans would come in, and what they would do is go to particular tribes and say, all right, here's how this is going to work. They would basically put a gun to their head and say, you're going to fight for us. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you can either, we'll take you out, or we'll go with someone else, and we'll get them to take you out.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. So it's so complex. So it's deeper than, okay, African tribes were warring with each other, which they were. No doubt that was what was happening.
The Woman King shows this when
they was
show
going
this
down.
in a film. Yeah,
it was going down.
Yeah, there's movies that show this.
And a lot of that
Shaka Zulu also shows this as well.
Absolutely. It was happening.
Right.
But it wasn't happening everywhere.
No.
And so, again, what the media will do will take a small piece of the story.
There you go.
Magnify
and try to say that everybody, no, but we already have the statistical data that proves that 90% of the people, they were just taken away. I mean, there were no other tribes involved, that they went in there, did what they did, just like they did in Puerto Rico or Hispaniola.
Yes.
Or all these other, they didn't have any help from any tribe. They just went in, shot the people, raped the women, took their land, and said, now we're going to call this Haiti. Now we're going to call this Hispaniola.
Yeah.
Now you're called Puerto Rican. You know, you're called Puerto Rico and all these other places. So, you know, that's been the MO for a really long time with these people. I want to ask you this, man. Let's switch gears.
Sure.
Now that we've convinced you to take your ass home, how do we do it? Give me like 3 of the first steps that you would recommend for somebody that wanted to go back to Africa and really to plant seeds there, to have dual citizenship or whatnot, to have a connection to home base.
Well, the first thing is to get a passport. That's the first thing. A lot of us don't have the license to leave the United States. So the first, or whichever country you may be watching in Canada or Jamaica or someplace else. So to get your passport, because that's going to give you the ability to leave the country. And then the other thing I would say is really start learning about the culture. And I had to tear down pretty much everything that I learned about the continent and start understanding it from their perspective. Reprogramming. Because if you go over there and you're looking for America and all these different places, you might be disappointed.
Right.
But if you go say, I'm going to go as a sponge. I'm going to go as a sponge, and I'm going to go and learn. And that would, so passport, and really start the reprogramming process.
Right.
And really starting the reprogramming process, because when you do that, now you're able to start thinking differently and you have a different level of expectation.
I'm glad you said that, bro.
Because it's real.
It always starts with what you think first. Everything starts with what you think.
Everything. And
so if you got the passport and didn't have your mind right, and you go over there with expectations.
That's right.
And you're going to be let down. Wow, man. But you got to get your mind right first.
Got to get your mind right. And that was something that I knew I needed to do before I went. So I went kind of like, okay, let me just see what it is. Let me not go over here looking at these people like they're charity cases. That's another thing. A lot of these NGOs and charities go over there and make millions and billions of dollars and don't even give the people what they're raising money for, because they're over there exploiting these narratives. So now when I go, I'm looking at their wealth. I'm not looking at it like, oh, the running water. Oh, they need to have everything that we have. I'm like, man, these people, the ingenuity of these people. Look at how they have everything. They know how to cook here, they can do this. I need a grocery store. They don't need a grocery store. They can figure this thing out. So when I changed my mindset, I could see the beauty in all of that and not see any pity. When I went to the Maasai tribe out in Tanzania, I went into their home. Now their home is a mud hut. We look at mud huts in a bad way. I'm sitting in the hut like, you know what? This is how they've been doing this for thousands of years.
Right.
My mindset and culture is a new creation. If even America's, but barely 100, not even 100, 250 years old yet.
Right.
So I'm saying these people have been living like this all these years. They still are multiplying, and they have their own culture. And who am I to look down on that? That's how they do it. What can I learn from them? And that's how every place I would go, whether it be the Yoruba in Nigeria, or the Timide and the Mende in Sierra Leone, or the Ashanti and the Ewe in Ghana, the Wolof people in Senegal.
Nangadef.
Yeah. I mean, all throughout the whole continent. I mean, the Berbers in Morocco and Algeria, in that part of the world, the Zulu and the Khoisan in South Africa, the Chaga in Tanzania. I already mentioned the Maasai. I mean, you could just keep going on and on and on and appreciating the differences, because they're not all the same. They have their own, each one has their own vibe. And so, again, when you go, and to your point, to your question, starting to learn, getting that passport, and then taking a step. And don't try to do it. This is what I tell them, don't try to do it on the cheap. Because when people try to go, they think, I'm going like down to the Caribbean.
Right.
At least for your first trip, make the investment, do it the right way, spend a little money, because if you go and try to do it on the cheap,
right,
now you're getting the hotels that might not be the right quality. You're getting into situations. Don't go over the naive. Don't lose your street sense. If you are from D.C.,
right,
and you understand how folks operate, don't lose that when you go to anywhere in the world. But in particular, don't lose that when going there. But if you take the right steps, spend on the right things like your accommodations, and your tour operators and all of that. If you do that, then you have a great time and you won't be let down. And that's one of the things we specialize in, is making sure that people have those things in order so they can just focus on absorbing the experience and not having you don't have to worry about where you're going to stay. You don't have to worry about your transportation. You don't have to worry about where you're going to eat because all of that's already been mapped out for you. And so that's what I love doing. Another thing that really stands out to me is us taking the elders over. So 60 plus.
Grandma and them,
auntie and them, who now, we were just in Egypt. And when we were there, one of our aunties, 63 years old, she came, she said, I've never been on a plane before. I've never traveled internationally before. She said, it's my first time. She said, my daughter's never been on a plane before. My granddaughter's never been on a plane before. She said, but now I'm going to make sure my granddaughter has this experience. Wow. Changed her whole life. We've had people from the ages of 3 to 93 join us on these travel experiences. We've had at least 5 people over the age of 90.
Wow.
Because they recognize, okay, once you hit 90, you know, okay, the time is, and they say, you know what, I'm going to live, I'm going to go.
That's
Folks
beautiful though, man. That's beautiful, man.
There's nothing, I've done a lot of things in my life. There's nothing more rewarding than this, in watching other people have that encounter. Right. And I've watched 80-plus-year-old grandparents come and within 6 months bring their grandchildren back. And then the grandchildren have the encounter. Because, again, who's going to do it for us?
That's beautiful, man. I was thinking as you said that, the only other experience that I could liken to that was when we saw President Barack Obama become the first black president, just to see our elders knowing that they're yearning for all those years to see a black man actually become the president. Now you got a black president. I could just see it. It was like something special for them, so I can only imagine it's that kind of like that same kind of a feeling.
It is very similar to that because when back in 2008, when it first happened, you saw the years of being denied, like being lifted. Right. You know, the symbolism behind it. But then when to kind of parallel that with them taking a journey to the continent, it's almost like all of those years of thinking the wrong way being lifted. It's like something comes off of you when you see things clearly, and nobody can gaslight you. Right. Nobody can come and say, well, Jay, what you saw, you didn't see. I'm saying,
bro, I was there, man. What you talking about?
Bro, I was there. My whole life has changed. You can tell me whatever you want. You can, as a matter of fact, sometimes people feel crazy trying to do it because, like, you can't gaslight me on this one. Right. I've been there. I have the proof. I have the results. I have the receipts. I have everything. So you can say whatever you want to say. And then that person has to start thinking, like, wow, wait a minute. Maybe there is something that I'm missing out on. And that's the thing. We realize we are missing out on something. We've been trained to think that the United States is the best of the best without realizing it's one of the greatest thieves in the world.
Absolutely, man.
It'll come and it has stolen.
There's blood all over these people's hands.
I'm sitting there, I'm looking at saying, well, I say, you going to put a flag on that flag, got blood on it. Right. And it's our ancestors' blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the sad part is that for those of us who don't understand the story, we've become co-conspirators in passing these narratives along. And without even realizing we're stabbing our own selves and our own back.
We're good at that, bro.
I mean, but
we're professionals. We do it better than them now.
Yes. It has been ingrained in us to the point, but not only for me to, like, say, for example, I'll just use this example, for me to stab you in the back and have that down as a science, but for me to stab myself in the back. And that's the part that I see that we do so well, especially when it comes to this topic. And it's in us to the point where we don't even realize what's happening. And that's the saddest part. And then I remember when I used to think like that, because like I said, I didn't have an interest in going to Africa. Right. Because I thought, man, I'm African, man, whatever. I don't even see the benefit. I got everything right here. If it's so good over there, why are all of them coming over here? And then I found out all of them are not trying to come over here. Right. A lot of them are, because they're trying to get the resources, the stolen resources, these cell phones that we have.
There you go now. Hold
you
on.
said something about the Congo.
Hold on now. You know what? I think this is the perfect opportunity for us to make a segue. Yeah. Because we already know what's really going on in the Congo.
Yes.
just for the people in the back that don't know what's going on, there are millions of individuals, millions of our people from the Republic of Democratic Republic of the Congo have died because of what's really going on is they want the mineral resources of this place because I believe the cobalt that's found there is in the Tesla cars. And also in the batteries of in our cell phones.
That's right. That's right. And you see some of the conditions, the mines. It is the saddest thing. The children working in these mines. The Congo is believed to be probably the wealthiest mineral-rich resource area on the continent, and that's why you see this. And what the imperialists do is that this is what I say: the place that is the most unstable probably has the most resources.
Right, and they destabilize for a reason. That's how they first get you. They got to destabilize it so they can come in and take over the resources. That's right. It's very easy. And they've been doing this for years.
For 500 years, when the Portuguese got there and started what they started in the 1400s.
Right.
And then obviously those who came along after the Spanish and the French and the Dutch and the British and the Danish and the Danes and everybody else who came along, you begin to see that nothing really has changed. You know, they have this whole thing about the independent. You know, all these countries are independent. And I said all that is just to keep the people at bay.
Right.
Because the French still control the Francophone countries' money. So with the CFA, so you have the Central French African Bank. French control that. Then you have West Africa, they control that. And you get the World Bank and the IMF in there, and then they control all of it.
Oh, we getting into the deep waters now, bro.
Hey, it is what it is.
We getting into the deep waters now.
But if people understand the game, if they understand that the cocoa that comes out of Ghana and Ivory Coast, I've been there to the farms and seen the little children actually with these big sacks of cocoa on their back, and the cocoa spread out on the ground. That's why somebody can't gaslight, because I know what I've seen. So now we get the chocolate bar. We pay $1 or whatever.
Right, now we got the Snickers, and we got
the Hershey,
and the Baby Ruths.
The Baby Ruth, and Almond Joy, and whatever else.
Right.
You have that, and they pay the people, I mean, not even pennies on a dollar.
Right.
I mean, it's so once you start understanding the rubber in Liberia, the diamonds that come out of Sierra Leone and South Africa.
Blood Diamonds, a whole movie about that.
All of that.
All of that. About that.
And you say to yourself, if this is the wealthiest country in the world, where does the wealth come from? I'll say it again. If this is the wealthiest country in the world, where does the wealth come from? You know, where does the British get their wealth from? How come there's still a British Commonwealth? If these places are independent, how come all of their former colonies are still a part of this British Commonwealth?
Right.
What interest does the British monarchy still have in these places all around the world, Jamaica and all these other places? You know, some place, you give independence, but you're still a part of the Commonwealth. Right. So it's a guise of independence.
Yeah, and it's funny because what you're talking about is just happening over and over. It's just a repeat. And so there's going to be people that are watching this right now, bro, saying, well, wait a minute, hold on. I was watching the news, and they showed me that the people in Congo is being slaughtered by their own people. Yeah, and we know that black people are in the mix with this. People of African descent. However, we already know that they're being financed
every time
by the colonizers.
Every single
and
time.
That's what the real deal is. There's always somebody. You always got to follow the money.
Follow the money, and
that will tell you everything you need to know.
Everything you need to know, and you'll find that when it's almost, again, it's the same strategy over and over. It's no different here in the U.S.
Right.
A lot of these different turf wars and gangs and all of the stuff that you see happening, where does the arms come from? You know, if you want to keep a particular area depressed, this is where gentrification. One of the best ways to do gentrification, depress an area with crime and instability. And then you move everybody out. Everybody buys up the property cheap. Now you can go build up and I mean, we see that here in DC.
Charge everybody triple.
So it's the same strategy across the board.
Every single time, bro.
And that's in the U.S. But now just imagine in Africa, in the different parts of Africa, whether it be South Africa. You know, you have the the symbolism that they have with the black leadership in South Africa, but who really still controls the money?
Oh, we already know that, man.
So the Dutch have the Afrikaans, they do what they do. The British are still there controlling. You go to Cape Town and you really understand who controls it in Cape Town.
Right.
You go to, I mean, you'll see it all throughout the continent. Now, this is not to say that you don't have, because you have a lot of billionaires, a lot of black billionaires on the continent. You have a lot of wealthy black Africans on the continent. But when you understand the system, it's like, the system it's been like this for a long time. And what we should do is figure out how to fit in and make the difference. So like on a micro level, that's why I have that store and that salon.
Right.
Because now I'm able to at least be in the mix. So when I have my Lebanese neighbors, they're looking at me sideways and I'm looking at them like, what's up? I'm here too. Right. So I'm bringing these resources that my ancestors in this country bled and died for. They bled and died for me to have the opportunity to travel. Many of them couldn't travel, but now I have the opportunity, and I'm not going to do it. I'm the one. When I think about, and they might not have even known. What they knew was that they wanted better, and so now many of them marched, many of them protested, many of them sacrificed, so that someone could go and experience the things that they couldn't. So I do this in honor of my ancestors here from the U.S., as well as my ancestors who fought and resisted in many of the uprisings on the continent of Africa. You know, so once we get a grasp on that and kind of look at it deeper in the economics of it and kind of take the emotion and channel the emotion properly, then we can be even more productive.
Well, you know what? I stay very hopeful about this situation because I'm paying attention to what's happening, and I think one of the prime ministers or somebody from Senegal said, "We want the French out.
Yes,
we can govern ourselves. We don't need the colonizers over here doing any of these things. We got this under control. You know, just leave us alone. We can govern ourselves. We can take care of ourselves, and this is what needs to happen to make Africa a better place."
Yeah,
and this sentiment is going on and it's happening in several other places. Like these voices are beginning to be like, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on? I also find it very interesting that there's several countries that wanted to develop their own money system. They wanted to have their own African dollar.
Yeah.
And we already know, we already know for a fact that if that happens, bruh, that's gonna change the entire world. There'll be reverberations from an economic standpoint if that happens. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If it does happen, it would definitely have economic implications across the world. That would not happen without a major fight.
Right.
Because these interests, and in particular the United States, they have interest all throughout. So what you see now happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger against the French when they're saying, listen, we want the French out. They're protesting. That's what they're protesting on a different level.
Right.
Because they're tired of the French control. And, now what they're doing is they're talking to Russia. Because the one who's formidable is going to be the one who has the military. The real currency of the world is your military capacity. And unfortunately, there's no African country that has any military capacity that can stand up to the French, the U.S., the British. So they have to find someone to back them who does have a military capacity like that. And there are only two other places.
I already know what you're going to say. Go ahead, say them.
China,
and the other one start with an R.
Right. That's the only two other places. Those are the two.
There's only two.
And that's the thing.
And that's why we always beefing with these people. We always beefing with them.
Yes. So that's the thing. So it's really a fight for many of the skirmishes that are happening in places like Ethiopia. Whenever you see civil discourse, you said follow the money.
Right.
Follow the arms. Who's backing them? Who's fighting? What's going on here? And it's a really interesting, it's so complex. And it's very interesting when you get on the ground and you see just the dynamics. And then you even get on a micro level and you begin to see how the cultural challenges that many of the places have and the exploitation. Like, for example, in Nigeria was a country that was formed by the British. So the British created this country in Berlin, and now they gave them independence in late 1950s, I believe. But they shouldn't. Just imagine if you have the Bloods and the Crips in the same house telling them to govern themselves.
Right.
That's going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really no different than what's happening in Nigeria, when you have the Fulani, the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Igbo all in one country. And then the Fulani pretty much control the government and the military. But who's behind that? The British. And so they make sure that ethnic conflict stays there so they can control that oil. And so they're busy fighting each other, and the British in the background and the Americans in the background.
Yeah, take these guns.
And
take this
they
money.
extract that oil. And I'm not trying to simplify the ethnic challenges that are happening, but that's what's going on.
Right.
So when we hear, ooh, there's a coup or there's some sort of thing that's happening, I always look. In Haiti, what's going on? The French. I always said, when the president was assassinated a few years ago, I said, look at the French. I said, follow the French. Whenever a president is ousted or a coup happens, who's the colonizer behind it? Whatever's going on in the Congo, I look at Belgium, look at the French. Let's see what's going on. What's happening in Angola? Check the Portuguese. It's always that thing that when you get there and you see it, you say, ah. And oftentimes the people on the ground don't even realize what's happening.
Right.
Because they're educated by the same systems that we're educated by. They just twist it a little bit.
It's interesting that you bring, and you make me think about a book, and then I want to talk about your trips that you do next, and we'll wrap up. There's a book that I read called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Okay, I need to get that one.
Okay, yeah, 48 Laws of Power. And I bring this up is because people don't know how ruthless like these governments are and the lengths that they will go to keep power and control to be able to have that money.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan taught us something very valuable. Cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bill, bill, y'all, right?
Yeah.
This is what is going on. We already know for a fact that these coups and a lot of these things that have the mineral resources in these countries and the destabilization of these areas is really related to some colonizer being able to continue to exploit the land.
Yes.
And this has been going on for hundreds of years. They just kind of remix the game.
That's right.
Every couple years. And it's ridiculous, man.
And it's been happening. And, the sad part, when you were talking, I was reminded of those of us who are here who don't want to, if you pull our DNA, it's going to be as African as all get out. But
every single time.
Every single time. And they'll say that it's fraudulent. And I tried to find out.
Right.
And at no point in time, every time I try to prove those things wrong, it always comes back. Well,
Right.
I'm the one that's wrong. But the master plan, and it's masterful, if you can convince the people to not even want to be associated with who they are,
Right.
you can create a whole new person.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why you do it.
Yes.
You want to erase the hard drive so you can be able to program it to do what you want it to do.
And they do it in a way that is, when you travel around and you
Right.
see how the programming works. But now what people are doing is
That's why you burn down the libraries too.
Yeah, they do that too, right? because when you start looking at, here's something that happens in many African countries. They have their indigenous languages, but when they put them in the school system, whatever.
Don't talk your language.
Don't talk your language, and they will beat the children for speaking their local language. I've had many people in Ghana tell me this. I've had people tell me this.
They've done this to Native Americans here in this country on reservations, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, don't speak your native tongue. Stop that. Speak English.
Wow.
Stop worshiping your God.
Yeah. And come follow this.
No, you gotta follow this white man with the blonde hair, and his name is Jesus.
It's not even. It's like, where did y'all get?
And Jesus don't even look like that.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they made a character.
Yeah.
And if you try to tell people, it's no different than me picking up this pillow right here,
Right.
and calling this Jesus or whatever. It's like, okay, that's how these images get out here, and it's sad because it's all over the world.
Right.
And it's but like you said, remain hopeful because people are waking up.
Right, it's happening. Oh,
And
yeah,
one by
man.
one by
little by
one,
little, man. It's
People
happening.
are saying, nah, you're not. I'm going to educate myself.
Right.
More and more people are homeschooling and educating their own children. They're taking them on these trips and giving them, we call it world school. They're giving them a real world education instead of this processed education.
Right.
It's almost like McDonald's education where everything is the same. Now people say, no, I'm going to invest this money into myself. I'm going to invest this money into my children. I'm going to get resources that are outside of the box, if you will. And little by little, that becomes a cultural norm.
Right.
And we all play our part. There are a lot of people out here who are tired of it, and they're inspiring people on whatever platform they're able to do it.
It's already happening, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact when you got, these presidents saying, look, man, we want you guys out,
Yes.
roll out.
Yes.
I never heard that before. Them wanting to have their own money system, understand, get out. We control our own destiny. This whole idea of self-determination, I think
Yeah.
is very fascinating, and I'm very hopeful. So now let's talk about your travels. I know you're doing trips.
Sure.
I think I just saw you. You just coming back from somewhere?
I was in Senegal last week. I was.
You went to Gorée Island?
Yes.
Oh, man, I love it there,
been to
man.
Gorée Island. Went to Sally. Went to the Gambia.
Okay.
Been to Kunta Kinte Island. That's another island that
Okay.
a lot of people don't know is there. It has the ruins where many were shipped out of that particular.
From Alex Haley's family from Baltimore, from that tribe?
Yeah, that's the Kunta Kinte Island.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Annapolis, Maryland.
in the Gambia.
Wow.
And so you learn about that history. So we
Talk about connecting the dots.
connecting the dots and being able to show people. When folks go to Gorée Island, they realize
The door of no return.
The door of no return.
Love it there.
Right there. And then obviously we go to Ghana, we go to Elmina and Cape Coast, and you have those doors of no return. You go to Badagry in Nigeria, been to Bunce Island in Sierra Leone, the Wall of No Return in Benin, the Manchin de Esclaves in Togo, because they had all of these different houses and ports along the coast of West Africa, even up into Morocco.
Right.
So, but with the travels, we have a lot of fun too. So you get the history.
I need to go on one of these trips, bro.
You do, because everyone is surprised.
You need a DJ?
Yeah, of course. Remember Easy Street, the legend, the DC radio legend. But the thing is that when people come, they're thinking, okay, it's just going to be education. My background is in theater. I've written a lot of stage productions.
Right.
So I write.
That's how we met.
That's right. So I write a lot of these curated trips, like they're stage productions. Mm-hmm. So people come in and they're thinking, oh, I'm going on a trip, but I've already thought this thing through in such a way to make it a very unique experience. So you get the food, the fashion, the culture, the vibe, the fun, the adventure, and then you get the education right along with it. And that's why people leave and they're like, I didn't know that this was going to be here. And we've taken people all throughout the continent. We even go down to South America because Brazil was the place where the most amount of enslaved were taken.
Woo, that's the first place they landed,
right,
bro.
the Portuguese.
Pelourinho, I've been
Yes.
there.
Oh,
I've been to Bahia. I've been to Salvador, bro.
You know.
So exactly, this is the place where Michael Jackson did.
That's
They
right.
don't care about us.
That's right.
Yeah, with the Olodum in there.
Yes.
I've been there, bro.
And you've seen, so
Yes.
you know.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
The Yoruba.
The
and that
very
influence-
first black community in the Americas is in Pelourinho.
That's right. And
Yeah.
right there in Salvador. And people confuse it with El Salvador. It's not El Salvador.
Right.
It's Salvador in the state of Bahia in Brazil. And you have over 100 million Afro-Brazilians, which is almost 3 times the amount of African Americans.
Right.
So I went and I'm walking around. Until I opened my mouth, they thought that I was from there.
Right.
But we go into Colombia, we go to Costa Rica, we go to Puerto Rico, we even go to Cuba. These are places that we go where the African diaspora is,
Right.
because you start connecting the dots. In addition to, we have a Black London, Black Paris, because there's so much history that is not taught. We see the British monarchy, but when you go to Brixton and you're like, wait a minute, all these black folks here too?
Right.
It just empowers you because you know that there's something great about a people that have been dispersed throughout the whole world.
Right.
There's something about that, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. Whereas before, I was indifferent. Like now, you can't my African card. I love it. I love every piece of it. I love my Black American card because this is where I was born. My culture. This is where I come from. I claim it all. And when you can claim multiple things and claim the greatness from all of it, just imagine how that empowers you versus saying, you know what, I don't want any parts of that. But that's really a part of you.
Right.
You're denying a part of your greatness. I will never deny all of the greatness that I've been able to be blessed with.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. I wish everybody thought like that. And we can't think like that. You know, one thing that I'll say is this. Through my travels, what's interesting to me is yeah, we have our differences with people in different places, but we see the same thing. It's differences in between Southeast and Northeast, bro. Hello?
Yeah, for real.
It's differences between Columbia, Maryland.
That's right.
and where we at in Clinton, Maryland.
That's
So
right.
I mean, these differences exist, but we have more things in common than we have different. And as soon as you spend time in these places, you will see that.
That's right.
You'll be like, wait a minute, hold on. We do that dance.
That's it. The rice.
At the go-go.
Oh, I was in Senegal and dude was in the pocket. I said, wait a minute. I said, hold on. I said, he didn't know he was in the pocket. I knew he was in the pocket. I was like, I had to share it on my social media. I said, yo, is he in the pocket? So my DC folks like, yes, sir. He in the pocket. He in the pocket. He went, boop, pop, boop, the pocket. I said, look at this.
Crazy.
And it hit me because of my DC culture.
Right.
But I'm in Senegal. Mm-hmm. So that should tell me that transcends DNA.
Right.
You know what? I'll give you this last piece right here. I never knew I was going to end up becoming a children's book author. And so what I did was I took my travels and I created the Adventures of Darren and Destiny children's book series.
Okay.
Because I knew children might not have the access to the travels, but I wanted to humanize people on the continent from a very young age. So created that, the animations, the academy, the online academy that we're working on, the activity books, because until they can travel, we want to make sure they get this information.
Right, and this is what we talked about earlier about getting the mind prepped.
That's right.
So for what you're about to see, you'll have a better understanding of exactly what this is.
That's right.
Wonderful. All right, so where can we find all this information in regards to the trips, the books, the app, everything?
All right, MaximumImpactTravel.com. That's it, MaximumImpactTravel.com, or you can go to my personal website. You can go to my personal website, jaycameron.com. That's JAYCAMERON.com. So MaximumImpactTravel.com or jaycameron.com. If you just type my name on all social media platforms, IG, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, that's really where we crank out on YouTube. Just type my name in. It'll come up. You can find everything. And if you want to join us, just make sure you get plugged in and you'll see all of this. More content just like this.
Yeah, man, I got to get on one of these trips, bro. I'm just trying to think.
I'm going to start thinking myself.
Yeah, please. Just start, send me your calendar. I'm going on one of your trips, bro.
Because it's
And I'm going to bring cameramen too. Can I bring cameramen too?
Yeah, see, there you go.
You know what? Life in the district, you know what? On the road. With Jay Cameron.
You know what? You got me thinking. All right, we got to get easy. Tell them we're going to take easy in Africa. Ghana, where you want to go next?
Hey, man, you tell me. I'm with it, man.
Right.
Just let me know.
All right, let me
You know
think.
what? Surprise me.
I surprise them. Y'all heard
And
it.
I never let nobody control where I'm going.
I appreciate it, man.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
God bless you, man.
Bless you too. All right.
All right. His information's on the screen. Our good brother, Jay Cameron. Make sure you check him out. He's got the books. He's got the trips and everything else. But what you just heard right here, just let all that marinate in your spirit. If you got any questions, you can reach out to either one of us, and we can talk about that, all right? Thanks for tuning in to another edition, Live from the District. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Live from the district. Live from the district.